Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Into the Void Real Review. This time we are standing. We're standing up for a movie called The Creator. Um, this movie is a bold, new, fresh take on the science fiction genre. And I'm here to tell you that you do owe your time to this movie. It's not perfect, but it is a very well acted, very uh, visceral, very original take on a well worn path of the human versus AI debate. And it's not something that hasn't been done on the screen before because we've obviously had things with that deals with human versus AI in a post apocalyptic world. We've seen that. That's nothing new. But with this movie, there's just a nice, fresh take on it that you owe it to yourself to go see. It was made on a sparse budget of $80 million, when usually movies of this caliber are made at $200 million. Not $200, that would be ridiculous. And also, it's something that it does borrow from a lot of different movies that you will recognize. It borrows from Star Wars. It borrows from uh, District 9. It borrows from Blade Runner. It borrows from Ex Machina. Or is it Ex Machina? I don't know. Maybe I'm not saying that right. And also, funny enough, it's borrows from The Last of Us. It's kind of like a science fiction Last of Us, which I've heard other reviewers say. Yes, I do watch other reviewers. I know a lot of them, well, one specific one said that it was a science fiction Last of Us. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are other movies that ideas that this movie borrows from, but that doesn't make it bad. I think that makes it actually good because it's borrowing from movies that are good. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. Also, this movie has fantastic performances. We have two actors that are front and center. We got John David Washington, who is the main character who plays Joshua. And then we got Madeline Una Voiles, who plays Alfie. She's the girl AI in this movie. And just so you know, before I go any further, there's going to be spoilers. So beware of that. But yeah, the performances in this movie are really good. And there's a chemistry between the two main characters that just strengthens what's on screen. And there's also humor peppered throughout the movie, which is awesome. It helps lighten a movie like this that otherwise would have too somber of a tone. And so it's a plus when you have that. So this movie does have that, and it's not just all doom and gloom. Also, it's beautifully shot at $80 million. I don't know how Gareth Edwards did it, but he did it really well. He made a movie that has really good visuals, convincing. You'll be astounded at the special effects on the screen. Then also, not only that, you have that, but you also have great action scenes that have a tense, visceral feel to them. You'll be anxious while watching these scenes. It's not just Michael Bay-esque. It's not just explosions for explosion's sake. It's there to give you eye candy, but also substance behind it, which is an A in my book. And this definitely does that. On top of it, it's has some great ideas intermingled throughout the whole movie. There's a scene where a commanding officer swaps consciousness of a human with a AI, and There's a bit of that in order to get information that could help her find the weapon, which is the girl AI. There's another scene where you see ads in the movie where they're advertising you can donate your likeness to AI and live on in a sort of immortality through your looks. There's just a lot of cool things. There's cool imagery. It's a world that feels lived in, and that's awesome when you see it on screen, when you can actually feel that there's reasons why things are like they are. They're not just there because just to be there. They have a reason, and you feel like everything makes sense. This could be a world that actually exists in the future. As you know, there's going to be at the center of the movie, there's a war between humans and AI, and there's sort of an event that happens where Los Angeles is bombed or nuked, and it's literally ground zero, or Los Angeles is ground zero because of the AI who are blamed for bombing Los Angeles. But you've come to find out that it wasn't them that was the reason behind it. It was a coding glitch. So it shows also how war sometimes is started due to a misunderstanding. And you have New Asia, which accepts robots, and you have the futuristic version of the United States who have sworn off AI and now are committed to going at war with New Asia. And there's an awesome scene where you have this ship. It's almost like a satellite ship in orbit that scans to scan, I'm thinking, for the robots, and it can deploy missiles to destroy from a distance. It's truly scary stuff that you see on screen, and there's a tension that anything can be blown up at any time. And the other thing about this movie is not only the great acting, but the fact that you get behind a character that shows actual growth from beginning to end. And that's what you get with John David Washington. You get who plays Joshua. At first, he's only doing the mission to find his wife who supposedly died, but he comes to find out that maybe she survived. So he's doing this mission of finding the weapon that could sway the war in their favor or help them to not lose the war. And that's in finding this human AI that he doesn't know about until he actually finds it, that it's actually not human, but an AI girl that he needs to rescue. And at first, he's only about doing this for his own gain of finding his wife, but there's a bond that it forms between him and Alfie, who he names he ends up naming her Alfie. There's a bond that's formed, just like in The Last of Us, where there's two people go on a journey and they end up forming a bond. They may be at odds, which this is the same thing. Joshua and Alfie are at odds at first, but then they come to really love each other pretty much and become bonded. And there's a lot of emotion, that some surprising emotion in this movie that happens definitely at the end, and it's interspersed throughout some of the film where you feel really sad for the AI girl who feels that she wants to be free and feels that she wonders if she'll go to heaven when she dies, and there's a touching moment with that where she talks to Joshua about whether she'll go to heaven, and there's some real tear-jerking scenes of AI actually, where do they go when they die or when they're scrapped? There's a whole dynamic of that. And there's an interesting theme where you have at first you're when you first watch this film, you think it's the AI that are going to be the bad, so to speak, bad guys, but it ends up being that the humans are the truly despicable people in this film. So you get that dynamic, which is an interesting one. Um, but yeah, that's basically the full synopsis of this movie, and this is a movie that you owe it yourself to see because these movies aren't put out. These kind of movies aren't put out. It's mostly we see a lot of commercially driven movies with um, cookie cutter plots and thrown together stories. This is not that. This is something that really has good emotion behind the scenes and good visceral tense moments behind the action, and it's not just there for eye candy's sake. It's there because it actually moves the plot forward and it makes you get invested into what's on the screen, and that's what that's the things we need to support if we want better films in Hollywood. And I can imagine this movie had a hard time being greenlit because it was an original IP. Just like in video games, you see the same thing where originality is not rewarded. It's not backed because it's something that is a gamble to the movie studios. And I can imagine this was a gamble for the movie studios for this movie. That's probably why there's a lot of derivative stuff in it, because it helps sell the movie to the movie studios to make it. So that's my take. I think you really owe it yourself to back these kind of films, just like I watch other reviewers, and I know Chris Stuckman is one of those reviewers that I like to watch, and he said the same thing about how we really should back this kind of stuff. This is stuff that it's good stuff. We want to see more of it, so we should go out to the movie theater and put our hard-earned dollar towards this kind of movie. So I would say that if I were to give a number to this, I would give it a 10 out of 10. I think it's something well worth your time. I think it's something that after you watch this, you're going to want to get the Blu-ray and watch it, again and again. It's that kind of movie. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope to see you in the next one. So I will see you later. Have a good one. Goodbye.